Hey, guys.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Say Greg, Chip, Vicky. Here comes Joe. Good.
Dave, I'm here, but I'm trying to wolf down dinner, so I'm gonna go to stop video for 2 seconds until you need me.
Okay.
Looks like we might dodge the bullet on the snow. I didn't feel like sitting through this meeting and going out and shoveling.
That's right.
What's up, guys? How's everything?
Hey, Joe.
Joe,
Hey.
Just looking for Jim.
Hey, Dave, Chris Carino here to speak on behalf of the Albion Cultural Exchange when that comes up. I think it's item number 2.
Okay, Chris. Welcome. Appreciate everyone's patience. We're just waiting for one more board member. We expect to be here any moment. Joe, you have the legal notice, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You want to stop, or what do you think? Wait.
We'll give it another 30 seconds. I know one of the items we have, I was considering taking up front was signage, and I think I want him here.
Yeah, wait for him then.
Well, we don't have to
We
take
got to
it.
jump around. Yeah.
I just want him to be here for it. So
It's not like him to be late. Well, he's having problems, it looks like.
All right, no response yet, but we may just have to press ahead and we'll just save the sign hearing until he's here.
He did respond to your text.
Oh, we did?
He's trying hard, he says.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I didn't see it right off. Okay.
Yeah, so he's trying, I don't know. What's going
Okay.
on?
All right, well, why don't we get started? We can call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order for the Town of Wakefield Board of Appeals for January 25th, 2023. It is 7:04 p.m. We'll start with a roll call of members. Chip Tarbell,
Here,
Joe Pride,
Here.
Tom Lucy,
Here.
Greg McIntosh,
Here.
Mickey Feely.
Here.
Hey, there you go, Mickey. And Jim McBain, we expect to arrive shortly. And oh, hey, there he is. Welcome, Jim. And Chair Dave Hatfield is present. All right, let's proceed to the legal notice. Joe, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Consistent with the governor's orders extending certain provisions of the open meeting law, every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time. If you don't have a camera or microphone on your computer, you may use the following dial-in number: 1-301-715-8592, meeting ID 868-6418, 8090, passcode 265283. Please only use dial-in or computer and not both, as audio feedback will distort the meeting. This meeting will be audio and video recorded in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. This location is accessible to people with disabilities. Wakefield provides reasonable accommodations and/or language assistance free of charge upon request. If you are a person with a disability and require information or materials in an alternate format, or if you require any other accommodations, please contact the town's disability coordinator, William Renault, town engineer, at 781-246-6308. As far in advance of the event as possible, every effort will be made to grant your request. Advance notification will enable the town to make reasonable arrangements to remove an accessible barrier for you. 1, continued hearings. 2, 23-53, Brian Crew and Lauren Stern, application for determination and/or finding with respect to a continuation or extension of non-conforming uses under Articles 9, Section 190-50 of the Wakefield zoning bylaw related to reconstructing an addition onto an existing single-family dwelling. The property is shown as map 11, lot parcel 072 of the assessors map, and is located at 28 Lafayette Street, Board of Appeals.
Thank you, Joe.
Yep.
Okay. We have a couple of administrative matters which we will take up now. We received correspondence requesting to continue a couple of the matters on our agenda this evening. So we'll take those up front as we always do in case there's anyone here specifically for them. So from Attorney Brian McGrail, dated today, January 25th, regarding New Creek LLC at 10 Broadway, case numbers 2339, 40, 40, and 41 and 42, requesting that we continue this meeting to the February 8th, 2023, and that they're still in the process of revising their plans. They've also confirming and extending the time for us to render a decision until March 31st, 2023.
I move that we continue this to February 8th.
Second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Regular voting members, Chip,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Now we need a motion to extend the public hearing.
I move that we extend the public hearing to March of 2023.
I second that.
Thank you. To clarify, the request is March 31st.
March 31st, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, same voting members, Chip,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So if anyone's here for 10 Broadway, that it will be on our February 8th agenda. Next, also from Attorney Brian McGrail, dated January 25th, 2023, regarding Dana Rodriguez, 477 Main Street, Wakefield, case number 23-51. This office has been retained by Dana Rodriguez regarding his case pending before the Board of Appeals. Please continue the matter until your meeting on February 22nd, and that we are in the process of reviewing options.
I move that we continue this till February 22nd.
Second that.
Thank you, Joe. Any discussion on the motion? Our regular voting membership,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that too is unanimous. So if anyone's here for 377 Main Street, which was a signage application, that will be heard on February 22nd. Okay, so that is two of the continued hearings. One of our other matters, our main other matter on our agenda tonight is 60 Audubon Road, VCA Hospital, VCA Wakefield Animal Hospital. I see Ed Batten here, and he has requested, if possible, if we could take the matter up front. The hope is that it would be a quick review. Members have any problem with taking this one up front?
No.
No.
no,
Okay. So Ed, welcome. I did see a request, but I just want to make sure we had all the members present accounted for. And
Yep.
So are you able to share your screen and take us through the proposed changes to what we're looking to do with the property?
Yep. Let's give it a shot and share screen.
Okay.
And here we go. Fingers crossed. Can everyone see my VCA drawings?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Yep. Alrighty. So pretty much we are proposing two wall signs at this location. One primary wall sign. Let's see, let me scroll down. A face change in the existing ground sign. You can see the existing face on the left and then the updated branding on the right. VCA is rebranding all of their locations, and yeah, you can see the differences pretty clearly with these two images, but we'll keep going. The face of the ground sign is 2'10" by 7 feet wide, and just taking out one Lexan face and sliding in the new one. Let's see. This is the primary wall sign, which we applied for a permit and received the original wall sign. And then you can see the updated branding here, raceway mounted channel letters, internally illuminated, front lit, just like what's existing. It's a different font and different orientation of the letters as well. And then finally, this rear wall sign, we received a variance on in 2021. By the time we had received the variance and got the permit, VCA was already in discussion with Superior Electric about rebranding all of their locations. So the original proposed sign, which we received a variance on, was never built or installed. So there's currently nothing there on the wall. And I have an image of what was originally proposed during the initial variance, and that's this layout right here. Just to go back, this is the new proposed layout. So it's 3 signs total: the primary wall sign, rear wall sign, and the face change in the ground sign. One of the conditions of the variance was that any and old signs for the property, any design changes go back before the Board of Appeals, and here we are. So happy to answer any questions.
Are there all plans to change the door? I think the package that's in that folder shows the front door or one of the doors with new signage with the new brand.
So this was the packet we received from Superior Electric, who's the manufacturer of all the VCA locations. In this packet, I didn't see anything concerning the door vinyls being changed. So at this time, that's not part of our scope of work.
Mr. Chairman, my question would be, when did we approve the rear wall sign with a variance?
believe it was, sorry, don't mean to interject, October 2021.
So that means your time to initiate it has lapsed.
Okay,
You have a year to start or perform a variance, correct, Dave?
Correct. To exercise it, yes.
Is that from the
So-
time of the vote or from when it's filed?
It's a great question. I don't know the answer, Tom. But either one, we're well past the year.
Right, it was clocked in October 20th, 2021. I have a copy of it. It was sent to us.
mhm.
So does that mean it's a minor mod, or does that mean he needs to file for a continuation of the variance?
It's nothing to modify, right? I mean, if there is no variance, if you look at the bylaw, it says the variance may only be reestablished, excuse me, may be reestablished only after notice and new hearing pursuant to this section.
Right, and typically when we see that, it's before it lapses, because they know there's a risk of it lapsing, so they request to extend it, which we've generally provided the courtesy to different applications, as you all know. So, but it's done within that time frame, not after the fact. I think after the fact, it's done.
All over again.
Dave, just to double check, this was applied for as a separate variance, right? It's not like they were all one. It was each piece of the sign.
It was only the rear sign that went through that process, not the others.
Oh, okay. I know we talked about the square footage and all that stuff.
Yeah, we
Okay.
were looking at the ground sign monument and the building sign that's there. And then the total area frontage, basically, which they've
Yeah.
got a side frontage as well as a front frontage. So they got quite a bit of area.
Okay. So that doesn't even help them then. Okay.
No, because that decision does say any changes to the signs would be approved by the board. So like with the other signs being proposed, it would just be kind of another matter like we're doing. But for this one, the variance did lapse. So Ed, unfortunately, I think you're gonna have to reapply to do the rear sign. And get another
Okay,
variance.
so. new
The others,
variance.
we could carry forward tonight and find as modifications to our previous decision to update the signs as presented. That could move forward. But if the company wanted to add the rear sign again,
Mhm,
you have to reapply for another variance.
new
Because that other one
variance.
did lapse, yes.
Okay, all right.
If
Well,
you put the sign up, then we'd be okay, right? But
Right,
never
right.
happened
I
like you
mean,
said.
yeah, unfortunately, we're not the manufacturer, so it just never showed up. And when I called Superior, they're like, it's all on hold. We're brand change, and time went by.
Yeah.
Did you drill holes or anything to do?
No, no.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
Literally nowhere. Okay.
literally nothing was done except for we got the variance, filed it at the Registry of Deeds, got the building permit, sent it off to Superior, told them, let me know when the sign's showing up, and it never arrived. And then, about a month ago, these drawings came across my desk.
You say you got the building permit for the front of the building?
For everything, we got a separate permit for the rear wall sign once the variance was.
Well, if they got the permit, that means they started it. I think we've talked about this before, that getting the permit means they've started the project.
That would normally be the case.
Right, I mean, so to me, then they probably don't, that we could find it all as minor mods then. What do you think, Greg? Mickey?
I kind of think once it's off, it's off. It's a whole new ballgame for the back.
Even if they had pulled the building permit?
Well, you have 6 months with the permit, don't you? So, I mean, that gives them a year and a half technically, right? 6 months for the permit and then a year for the.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't say anything in the bylaw about there's no definition of exercise or anything. It just says you have a year to exercise.
Right.
So I don't think we've been in a situation. I mean, I've been on the board, 5 or 6 years now. We've been in a situation where we had to determine exactly what that meant. think we were close in some places, but if there's past practice maybe of that's what we've always done is consider the building permit as an exercise of the variance.
Well, what if you,
When-
Greg, if sorry, but if you pull a permit like on any other project, it's not signed off yet. So technically he started the project, even though he didn't do anything. Like if he was doing addition, right?
But that's what I'm saying. There's no definition of exercise. So someone may say he started the project, but did he exercise the variance? I don't have any, it's not what it says in the bylaw. But if that's what we've sort of always viewed it as, I'm not uncomfortable doing it that way. But there's no like just this, I mean, there's no just straight definition. Well, he got a building permit, so he started the project. That's not what.
Well, he got the building permit and he's got drawings now.
Well, he had drawings when he came to us, so that doesn't mean anything.
I do know there have been times when they've asked for an extension on a variance because they've pulled the building permit, that was about to lapse, so they needed, you know, the 18 months was about to be over. So they needed to continue. I remember a couple cases like that. So
Yeah,
I'm
so that was-
comfortable.
And that was gonna be my
with-
question. When did they pull the building permit? Is that lapse too? Did they pull?
Well,
did you
that's the
pull that
question.
right
Has
away?
that lapsed?
Did that lapse within the 1 year, did you pull it right away and that lapsed even before the 1 year period or?
Let's see, I mean, I believe unfortunately, I don't have that with me. I'm home right now. So this was issued October 20th, 21. Pretty much would try and pull the permit, within the next week or two, so.
Okay, so
Assume
both
assume November 1st, 21, I got the permit.
so both have lapsed.
Yeah, so it's a
Well,
moot point in my book.
Isn't 18 months past 22? And then,
But you got it within 18 months would be if you got it, on last day of month 12. Well, then, if we considered that, right, that's the way I would
Your
interpret
building,
it.
yeah, your building permit lasts for 6 months.
Yes, and just because you got a building permit doesn't mean, well, you add 18 months onto the exercise of the variance.
Mhm.
They both kind of started, so I think you need a new variance for the back is my feel, Mr. Chairman, but I would feel comfortable going forward with the front ones.
So,
I like them, I like the signs better.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with the signs. Jim, any questions on the signs, the sizes or anything like that? I mean, they seem consistent. It is a different layout. Maybe the dimensions are a little different, but
No, he had plenty of frontage to begin with, so.
Yeah.
It's not really an issue. It's more aesthetics, I think, from our point of view. So I wouldn't worry about it.
okay. So the other option, Ed, is, again, we could proceed to find the other signs to be okay. If
Mhm.
if you can produce evidence that supports that the variance was exercised and something didn't lapse, you could get back on a future agenda and we could just consider the rear sign separately as you had proposed tonight. But if it's determined that things fully lapsed, right, the variance and the building permit, then at that point you would know you got to apply for a variance, right? So if you find the evidence to support otherwise and there's some legal support to back that up, then just get back with Gail and get back on our agenda, right?
okay, all right. So for the time being, will it just be a letter of approval for the ground sign and the primary wall sign?
Yeah, and I would also ask, again, the sign plan does show some changes on the door, and you're not showing them here, so I would just ask you to confirm.
Okay,
You're
Okay.
just asking for replacing what's there basically on the front and the monument. But I don't see a before and after on the door, but there's clearly something in here showing door signage with the new brand.
all right, I will definitely look into it.
Okay.
Hey guys, I was doing some quick research during this. I think if he pulled the permit, which I guess we just have to take it as word tonight, then that can be considered, no matter when it was, an exercise of the variance. I'm just reading some case law right now. That says the moment when a variance holder realizes the benefits of the variance. I'm not going to read it all to you, but that's what so I mean, I would be comfortable letting it go forward. No, because even though the building permit has lapsed, he's exercised the variance, at least according to this synopsis of this Cornell case law. Unless you're not comfortable. I mean, either way,
I'm just not comfortable because I don't have the, we don't have the building permit. We're just sort of guessing.
yeah. So either way, yeah, if he can bring the building permit, then maybe he doesn't need, but
And
yes,
just
we
confirm
don't.
with,
Yep.
confirm with some legal entity that, whether what was done at that time does constitute exercising, then again, it should be a quick get back on the agenda and we talk about the rear sign.
Yep.
But I did want to clarify the doorway too.
Okay.
So we can approve what's requested, but I would note that we're going to table the doors until you come back and, because if there's something's there now and you want to replace them, then again, that can be considered as well. And then whatever we do with the rear depends on what you find out, right?
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Sounds good.
So, for board members, we do have a sign plan and the request for now is monument and front signs being replaced due to rebranding, and then we'll table the other, the doorway and the rear.
But Mr. Chairman, I move that we find the replacement of the monument sign and the front wall sign as being minor modifications.
Second that.
Okay, I would again I would propose to alter the motion just to acknowledge that other parts of the sign plan are being tabled until more information is produced, right? Specifically the door and the rear. Just because if we're going to approve something with a sign package, we just want to be clear what we're approving and not approving, like the one we did last time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So can I get a second on the adjusted motion? Yep.
Sure.
And for confirmation, you find it as a minor mod and you approve such minor mod, right? Because you could still reject a minor modification.
Yeah. Okay.
Second the adjustment.
Thank you. Any discussion on the amended motion? All right, regular voting members, Chip,
Yes.
Joe,
Yeah.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes,
and I vote yes. Okay, Ed, so
All right.
we'll hear from you one way or another.
Yep.
And we'll perhaps see you back at a future meeting.
We'll go from there. All right.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Back to the top of the agenda, continued hearing 22-390 North Ave, Wakefield LLC at 596 North Ave.
Mr. Chair, you wanna put me on?
I will send you to timeout.
Thank you.
So recusing board member Joe Pride for this hearing is we've done all along. Okay, he's in the waiting room. Jesse. Welcome.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair. For the record, Attorney Jesse Schomer representing the applicant 0 North Ave LLC. Good evening to you, to members of the board. For the record, our team is represented tonight by Chris Barajas of Williamson's Barajas Civil Engineers of Record. Peter Sandors, I saw him on previously, architect of record from Phoenix Architect is on as well as Elliot Brundage from Elliot Brundage Landscape Architecture. I can update the board. Since the previous hearing earlier this month, we've been working on a draft decision and finalized requested list of zoning and other waivers of local bylaws. And we've got feedback now from the chair, from Mr. McIntosh, from Mr. Glenn, the board's MHP consultant, as well, I believe, as some feedback from Rebecca Davis, the town's conservation agent. And my understanding is there was no further feedback from the traffic advisory committee. That is the extent that I'm aware of the feedback. Excuse me, I misspoke, as well as feedback from Mr. McBain, who did also provide comments. So I think we're getting close. There are a few issues that we need to work through among that group, and we're happy to discuss them tonight. or if the board's preference is to proceed with your agenda and leave the matter of the finer points that are still under discussion to offline conversations, we're happy to proceed that way as well, subject to the board's preference.
Okay, so we did receive your redlined updated decision, but again, just at 5 o'clock today, so there's just no time to act on it or really provide any substantive feedback at this time. So we will all need time to go through it again, make sure that the comments that were sent have been incorporated as expected. I did receive a comment later this afternoon from Bill Renault, the town engineer. Minor change, I think, are one of the conditions from engineering. So I will respond in kind, and anything else that I might come up with. But I'm just not sure we can proceed. I think we just continue to work it offline and finalize things with the waivers. I think we'll need a Zoom call with our town attorney, Tom Mullen. I think you'd mentioned that maybe in your email that, just to get his legal review of the conditions, the wording, some of the monetary elements and so forth, in coordination with the town to do some site and offsite work. So I would recommend that we schedule a Zoom call if you're willing to do that, or put out an email and find a common time. We can have somebody set up a Zoom meeting in the coming days and get this thing, really tightened up ahead of the next meeting on February 8th. But I just don't think we can go farther with it. I don't know if board members have any other comments tonight.
Yeah, so I would agree with that, Mr. Chair. I think we're making a lot of good progress, and the issues that are still up in the air, to my perspective, are fairly minor, and certainly things that I'm sure we can work through. So I think it's a great idea to set up a Zoom call with Attorney Mullen to go through the last issues, just to make sure that the other board members are aware of what we're referring to. There was a question that Mr. Glenn had raised regarding the conditions that pertain to the regulatory aspects of the project, which in layman speak refers to the affordable housing units and the requirements that are applicable to those. And there is some case law from the state that suggests that zoning boards shouldn't be issuing conditions that get into the realm of the subsidizing agency and what that entity is intended to be doing in its oversight of the project. That having been said, I didn't have any concerns with the conditions, and there's a escape clause that has been drafted in the draft decision that provides that if the subsidizing agency has a concern about those conditions, that they're severable from the remainder of the decision. But we'll defer to Attorney Mullen on that question, of course. And if his view is that the conditions should be modified or removed, we have no problem with that.
Okay. Other board members, any thoughts?
I think we
for
should
me, Dick,
continue when you've got it all. I think you should continue when you got it all straightened out.
Greg, I'm sorry, were you going to?
No, I'm just gonna say, no, you said it exactly. I think we're really close. I don't think there's anything huge left. It's mostly just confirming, waivers, conditions. That's about it.
Yep. Okay. All right, so we extended the public hearing to February 17th last time, so I think we're good as long as the meeting on the 8th proceeds. Again, don't want that to lapse. But if something were to happen with that town meeting, but that meeting, I don't know if we have to consider adjusting again, because it just leaves us only one more meeting. Again, I don't know that there's going to be any more reason for public hearing, but we do have to officially close it. So we would have to do it probably on the 8th if we think we're ready and to take a vote, right? Elliot, did you want to, I'm sorry, Ezra, sorry.
Just wanted to clarify for anybody listening that I believe the wording there is you didn't extend the public hearing, you extended the time allowed for the public hearing. Public hearing would be continued, to whatever you said, the 8th or something, but the time allowed for the public hearing was extended by the applicant till whatever you said.
February 17th, correct. Yeah.
Good. So, yeah, as long as we have the time to do it, that sounds like it makes sense. And I would, hopefully the board of, this can get annoying when you have a million different copies of everything, but hopefully you can start to see it all coming together. And the basic idea here is, I really think from the point of view of the zoning board, really what you want to do is sort of focus on those plans. And I think Jim has done a great job saying, that, you know, the final plan set that you all were happy with is what is represented there. A lot of the stuff that Jesse is talking about is more just sort of making sure that some of the legal conditions in there are as strong as possible for the town, but don't get you in trouble with the subsidizing agency. And that's really where it does make sense for your own attorney to advise you on that. But in terms of the project itself, you know, the footprint, the height, the parking, as well as even the, you know, the conditions around mitigation, those have all been sort of agreed to and seem like there are no questions there. So,
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I think, sure, thank you. Yeah, and I don't see Rebecca here, but they did, some of her comments related to us, you know, granting waivers on Concom things when we know they have to then go to them. So is that something we can do? Have, you know, entertain either, and they can request whatever they want, but whether the board can actually approve waiving, you know, conservation regulations or, you know, requirements when they still have to go to them, right? Or should we be really focusing on zoning waivers? And let the rest of that play out on
the
its
key
own.
there, the key there is you can grant waivers to the local bylaw, you know, or any kind of policies they have that they locally enforce, but you can't grant waivers to anything about the state wetlands process. And so there was some language in there that just we wanted to be clear that you were not stepping into that jurisdiction. But there are clear waivers that Jesse has put in there, you know, as they apply for everything else local you need.
Yeah. So again, just want to make sure we've covered that as well. So again, just we're close, as we've said, just we need a little more time, I think, to just go through and make sure the other folks are comfortable and meet with Tom Mullen. And then I think we should be ready on the 8th to come back and go through it all at a high level. Okay. Anything else before we move to continue to February 8th?
Nothing further for me, Mr. Chair, other than to thank you, Greg, Jim, and Ezra for all your time and attention reviewing the decision. We really appreciate all your feedback. It's been helpful, and I think we'll be ready when we come back before the board on the 8th with a final decision.
Okay, good. That is our intent. We need to. All right. So,
Mr. Chair, do you need to go to the public before we continue?
well, I mean,
There
I
was
can.
no really new material presented.
No, there wasn't, but as always, if there is something that somebody has a question already in process, we could entertain it. So if there is a member of the public who wishes to ask a question about this project as it nears its end, please raise your hand in the Zoom meeting at this time. Seeing no hands, we'll close up the public testimony.
I move that we continue this to our February 8th meeting.
Second.
Thank you. I was going to say, any discussion on the motion? All right, so the voting members on this, we'll get in the habit of doing that. Dave, Jim, Chip, Tom, and Greg. So Chip.
Yes.
Greg.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Well, thanks for the updates. We'll continue to work offline and look forward to wrapping things up on February 8th.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, requesting for Joe to rejoin us here, and he has. Welcome back, Joe. All right, John, to our next hearing. Continued hearing 23, 14, 15, 16, and 17, Kingman Block LLC at 369 to 371 Main Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Brian McGrail representing Kingman Block LLC, 369, 371 Main Street. Present with me tonight is Daniel Martinez from KDI Architects and Rick Salvo from Engineering Alliance, Site Civil Engineer. Since the last meeting, we talked about at the last meeting, various options as far as architectural design and materials of the building. Daniel presented, I think, 3 or 4 different options, and the board kind of had a preference for a mix of a couple of them. So we were directed to go back and work with Mr. McBain to try to kind of blend those options into what we all thought that the board desired the final product to look like. We work with Mr. McBain. I believe he is satisfied. We've gone back and forth with him a couple of times. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Daniel. Daniel, could you please go through the revised architecturals?
Yes, absolutely. Please let me know if you guys can see PDF.
Yes. Yep.
All right, perfect. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us again. I will be here to present to you what we have for the latest design. As Brian stated, just to briefly recap how we got here. In the previous meeting, we presented these 3 schemes on the right. We basically gave the board a couple of options to look at different designs and articulations. Some of the comments that we heard from the board was that the brick building felt a little bit too heavy. It felt a little bit institutionalized, like a school, not residential. Some of the other comments were that the cornice in scheme 2 wasn't undulating, and that scheme 3 just felt a little bit too gray for the neighborhood. So the board kind of decided that scheme 1 was the way to go with some modifications, and that's what we did the last week. We worked with Jim to kind of come up with a design that we thought would meet the expectations of the board. So without further ado, this is the design. As we said before, the materials are stucco mixed with brick. We have some of the geometry from the bank building that we're articulating in our design as well, with the arches and with the colors of the stucco. The first floor, we're planning on doing this in cast stone, just kind of the entry part over the parking area. For the cornices, we actually were thinking of doing extruded aluminum. We have a manufacturer that actually has historic cornices and profiles. So we think that would be appropriate for the building and also for the bottom cornice over here. The height of the building is made so that it's level with the bank, as you can see here. And we feel that the building is more closely contextualized with the immediate site. Some of these combinations of stucco and brick can be seen in some of the buildings located in Albion Street. And another change that we made, another brief change, was we thought it was more practical for the connecting bridge to have less windows, especially in the winter, less heat loss. And also we felt that there wasn't much to look at behind the bridge, so we just felt this was more practical. But that's about all the changes we made. These are some of the render elevations. This is also the aerial of the site, and this is the design that we came up with.
Okay.
Dan, is that real brick or is that brick veneer? Do you know?
We were proposing thin brick.
All right.
So to take the pieces basically here, what I focused on mostly, because I think that people were satisfied with the articulation between the brick and the stucco basically areas, was more to extend the brick up and let the cornice form itself all the way around the building, and in the same sort of articulation that mimics basically the top of the bank. And you can see that if you look back basically where there wasn't as much articulation there. The brick pieces basically ended whereby the molding was in behind it all. So this is heavied up the molding, provided basically a similar sort of separation between the molding and the parapet at the same time, but at the same time aligns with the building next door at this point. We never discussed, and nor had we here, discussed the link between the two buildings, but I think in the way it's handled, back down the alley, so to speak, and darkened out a bit, it doesn't, from the street side, it doesn't look like it belongs to either place. And you'll never really see it except when you look down the alley at this point. So I think it's probably you don't want to really bring too much articulation to it and make it different. You just want to make it not part of the two buildings. It's just a thing.
Right.
Okay. Looks like what we were going for. So thank you for working with them, Jim.
Yep.
Yeah, one quick question also. What were those circles on the stucco? Those are just like a design? Am I seeing things?
Yes, so those are part of these circles that sorry. Apologies. Just trying to find the right image again.
Yeah. Right there.
So these circles are the ones that are replicated here, and we're just making a molding out of those to again kind of speak those
that like
languages between.
To match the old building? Is that weird?
Sorry, what
Was that to try to match the old building? Is that what?
Yes, they were done with that purpose of just kind of mimicking the geometry of some of this bank trims.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was seeing things.
I'm sorry, I missed it. What's the material on the bridge? Is that gonna match like these balconies, or is it a different sort of?
So we were thinking of giving it a corrugated metal and making it dark, just to Jim's point, kind of separate it from the mass and just making it kind of its own element.
Industrial?
Yes, some more industrial.
I don't know that's appropriate. I mean, the whole thing is to come up with something that is neither here nor there, and it's not recognizable. I think to your point, Mike, is when you start doing ribbing on it looks like, two factories basically, where they eventually extended the process basically between buildings or staff moving. So I think we'll have to work on the materials they use there to make it go away more, but not to articulate it too much.
I mean, I had originally thought, wow, what a great place for copper and stuff like that. Wouldn't that be cool? But then you don't bring attention to it, also rings true. So
Yeah. I mean, because they don't have it here, but you've got buildings on the other side of the alley, which probably dead out right near the middle of that, or even at the bottom of that, basically.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't, the whole intent was to make it separate, but we still didn't want the fourth floor. So this provides us the avenue, but now we just got to make it go away. And we're not painting it sky blue.
Or battleship gray, or what have you. Stuff you put on roofs. I mean, stucco is an option. It just lightens it. Do you want it darker or lighter? So we can continue to think about options there. But I think the main thing was we were going for this building look, and I think this is I think what we have in mind. So
Dave, you've got an interesting point. If it was a stucco surface, but it was a darker color, like everything was in shadow, that might do it, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay.
So if the board, Mr. Chair, is satisfied with the design of the building, the look of the building, then I would suspect you would want us to start putting together, and that goes with the connector materials. Because there's really, Jim, there's really not been any material or color specs provided because we've been working on the design to this point.
Right.
So I think that will be the next step, Dan, that you would need to put together like a material sheet and
Okay.
and point to the building, what material is going where in the color. And Jim, would you require detail on the windows at this point on that too?
Yeah, I would. I mean, like the balcony, the balconies, all those sorts of features, I can mark something up with what I'd want to see, basically on this.
Okay.
The one thing I've noticed, and I've been thinking about basically if you're looking at what you got right now, is the cornice and the parapet on the new building is not quite to the same scale. Particularly, I think the parapet might want to be up a little bit higher. It even looks like it's not quite aligned with the parapet on the bank. But the parapet on the bank is, probably 2.5 feet or something like that, or 3, whereby on the building it's much less. It may be 1.5 feet. So I think there's some adjustment. I mean, we know the direction. It's just a matter of, does that go up a little bit so that you can see and compare with on the street? And then what do you do with the connecting piece at the same time?
Okay.
Right, Jim, the other thing that's missing on this is there's no mechanicals.
Yeah,
There's no venting, there's no anything protruding out the side of the building.
no, and that's another reason to have a higher parapet too.
Right,
Okay. So we can raise the parapet and articulate the cornice to look more like the bank.
Yeah. I mean, the cornice, I think, the scale of this is right, because you don't want to be too big like the bank horsey, basically, but you still want to be in scale with each other, but scale with itself at the same time. To what Chip's talking about, basically, we don't know where the roof line is in all this. And depending on the mechanical system you're going to use, it's going to be on the roof, whether it's compressors or whatever, or whether there's some big central thing, or whether there's just small ones that are part of the units. We'd like to know what the height of those in relationship to the edge of the roof or the edge of the parapet. Because we don't want
Okay, I believe we're showing condensers, and I think we're putting them down the middle, so they won't be as visible. But we can, further illustrate that.
What page is that, Daniel?
This is a different package. I mean, this is a presentation package, but it's within the plans that we sent.
Sheet 12, okay, I'm just looking, because I was gonna say a rooftop plan, but yeah, we're gonna want to at least show the elevation.
It's on sheet 5 of what was submitted.
Oh, okay, I do see it.
all the sheets have to start becoming coordinated and, there's no crosswalk on this sheet. So even though it's a roof elevation, there's no roof to the crossing. You got to start pulling all the designs together.
Okay.
Yep.
And on the elevation, start showing start to see the mechanicals, like where they're likely the height of them, what you're still thinking about. Materials booklet, as you said, Brian, seems okay.
Mhm.
Yep, okay. Anything else? We also got a stormwater management plan in our updated file here.
Yeah, that's been submitted to the town engineer. So Mr. Renault's in the process of reviewing that.
Okay.
And Rick Salvo submitted that. We forwarded it to Mr. Renault, and then Rick, who's with us, also submitted a revised site plan, which had minimal revisions, but just to keep everything in sync and up to date.
Okay, was that it for new material? And
So one quick comment, Dave. Appreciate all the progress that's been made. It definitely reflects what we talked about. Jim, did you take a look at the front door?
No,
If you go back to that, I don't know, it doesn't seem to have a presence. Oh, it's worth looking. I just don't want to miss a detail there.
Where should I go? Down here?
Go down, go to the one that you had sitting up before for a couple of minutes.
302.
Okay. 302. Okay.
Zoom in on on the Chestnut Street side if you could. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
You could almost turn, and it looks like, and we don't know what the thoughts are, but it looks like the balcony is become something of a roof over the entry.
Yeah.
The problem is, I suppose if you wanted to find the address, it's in the shadow as opposed to being maybe more out front, maybe even on the front of the balcony, basically. But it could do with a little bit of work, and we've been concentrating on the bigger picture. Now, as you've done, basically focused us to the detail.
Yeah. Just worthy of looking at and some thought.
Mm.
Okay.
And the two images, the two dark areas to the right, I'm assuming are just open areas looking into the garage.
These areas?
See the dark, they're almost like windows if you go to the right of the door. Yes.
Yes, these are just looking into the garage.
So they're just open air. They're
Yes.
shown as dark here, but you would see through. They're more reflective of what we'd see on the left of the door there.
Yes, I just want to be sure. If I look at the plan. So yes, the only thing you'll see will be the stair over here, which comes from the entry and goes up. But that, I guess that would be the dark area there, this piece that you're seeing at the first floor.
But nothing, it's intended to be open, not like a venting or a louvered kind of cover or anything. Because we've seen it with other projects, some sort of partial covering of the garage openings. I mean, if your intent is to have it open, sounds like the board is, I don't know, I'm fine with that, but just a good catch, Tom, just to understand, is that an intentional covering or darkening or just maybe what's in the far background? Yeah.
The background, yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else, board members?
Can we, I think, I don't know how ghosted in, I guess, would be behind the buildings that are there. If somehow we could see, not sky, like there's nothing across the street, but buildings behind us, basically, so we get a sense as to their relationship as you look through.
We can try and put a graphic together, just trying to figure out the accuracy of that without actually modeling it out.
Yeah.
Since,
Yeah.
It's hard to take a picture from Google Earth. But, we'll see what we can do to represent that.
Okay. And Brian, I think on my notes from last time, there was TAC. What's the plan there? Traffic?
Yeah, we'll be before them.
So still to come. Okay.
Yeah, I think they're gonna be meeting in a few weeks on a number of things. So we have
When's the appropriate time for me to say something?
When I open it to the public, Chris, don't worry. Didn't forget about you. Don't worry. We're not going away.
I don't attend these things regularly, so I'm not sure of the process.
Yeah. I just want to make sure we've vetted all the board member comments for now, and then we'll open up to the public. All right. So board members, we'll pause. We will open up the public testimony. First in line, hands up, is Chris Carino. So Chris, welcome. Please share with us any, well, why don't you state your name and address for the record, actually, and then, share your comments or questions.
Okay. Chris Carino, 18 Central Street. And I also have an apartment at 10 Albion Street. And just basically just here tonight to say that, I represent the Albion Cultural Exchange, which is at 9 Albion Street. And we've been developing that property for the last 8 years. I also work very closely with Ralph Penny and Richard Dolan, who own 1315 Albion Street. And none of us have actually seen any of the plans until just recently found out about it from the newspaper. I issued a letter to this board and was referred to, by Mr. Hatfield to come tonight to speak. Just asking, to talk with the developer and be part of the conversation, see what the plans are like. As I look at these plans, I see 2 ugly dumpsters going across on the left and presumably our buildings in the back. We'd like to, work to make it look, really good, but we also have an entrance across that fire lane, that a rear entrance that we'd like to make look visually pleasing. And we just really want to be part of the conversation. So we're all about, making downtown, and we call this the power block. So you've got the Albion Cultural Exchange, you've got this property, you've got 1315, which is also doing a renovation and putting in some luxury apartments and some other stuff. So it seems to make sense for all of us to work together. I talked to Ralph Penny at 1315. He's drafted a letter to the board. He's got a bunch of concerns. I drafted a letter to the board that has a bunch of concerns. And the concerns probably aren't that crazy. We just haven't seen any plans, so we haven't been able to really just have any form of discussion as do we see it. As I look at this and I see the dumpsters and stuff, our building's right behind there. We'd like something to be another way to get to our building, and we've drawn some plans in the back there as far as access to our doors and stuff like that. So we just want to get on record that we want to be part of the discussion. We'd like to get copies of all these plans, and neither 1315 or 9 Albion Street received any notices of the hearing. So we're coming in late, but better late than never. And we want to do whatever we can do to get electronic copies of this stuff. And ideally, I'd love it if Mr. McGrail or somebody else would present this to the Albion Cultural Exchange Committee, so that they can get feedback, from an abutter and a direct neighbor. But we're really trying to make downtown and this power block really work for downtown. So we want to be included, and we want to have effective conversations to talk about the details.
All right, thanks, Chris. Brian, do you want to chime in? I think you saw his correspondence, right? He said,
Yeah, Chris was kind enough to send me an email yesterday, which I did get, Chris. Thank you. And so I forwarded that to my client. So we're going to sort through that.
It's late to the looking for more conversation because it's all happened.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. So we'll get in touch with Chris.
okay. And some of it, again, might be things that just take into consideration to work with them. Some of it, again, the property line is very close there. So again, the buildings don't have much space in between them. And this new building is right there, right? And, so just like right now, there's a drive-through between Albion and Chestnut, right? So that's one of many things. Like that's going to continue to be open as we see the red car there. People are still going to be able to do that, because it's open and it's not gated as a parking garage. But just the buildings are so close, and as Chris has said, work together, address any concerns with the abutters. Ryan, appreciate whatever you wanted.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do
offline, and then just come back to the board if it means adjusting what we're talking about here in the public hearings with the plans or the design or the site plan. Then we'll talk about it, right, and factor that into our deliberations, right?
Yeah, we'll sort. Chris sent a very thorough and detailed email on some of the items. So we'll sort through that, and then Chris will reach out to you.
Okay, great.
And Chris, we can get you the plans. Again, they're in the public, they're in the building department, but they get electronic. They're sent to us electronically. We can, we got these latest plans for tonight's hearing a few days ago, so I can respond and forward that to you, unless Brian, you want to do it either way.
I can, the plans I submitted tonight, the new site plan and this architectural, I can send to Chris tonight after the meeting.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So you'll have the latest that we're working from, Chris.
Awesome. And don't forget our friends at 1315. Okay.
Chris, I'm sure you'll share them, right, if I send them to you?
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Absolutely.
Got a thumbs up.
Now we're excited. We think this is going to be awesome. So we're all in.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Chris. Appreciate your feedback and look forward to, again, your participation in future hearings as we work through this. All right. Any other member of the public wish to make a comment or ask a question at this time? No other hands, will close with the public testimony for the evening. So next steps, Brian.
Well, I think what we're gonna do now is, we'll fine tune this plan. We've got, Mr. Renault is reviewing the drainage. We've got TAC that we talked about. And, as I mentioned, I'll get in touch with Chris and, I guess we continue this and we keep moving. We're gonna be in a little bit of a stall point with the drainage review and TAC. So, but I think, the question I have for you, Dan, do you think on some of these things on the architecturals, you'll be able to have some stuff within a couple of weeks?
Yes, I mean, it seems like the comments were, easy to address, for lack of a better word. They were pretty straightforward.
So why don't we continue for 2 weeks, and if that's what we cover, updates there, and anything else that you've got an update on, if you've got a chance to meet with the neighbors and have any updates, it may be a lot in 2 weeks, but we can certainly continue and then see where.
Yeah,
If you're
and
like,
if we're not
well,
ready, we'll let you know. I think you need an extension of time. Right now, you're good through 2/28, so that's getting close. So what I would suggest till March 31, and I can send a letter to Gail if the board's amenable to that.
Okay, so
For
request to
time.
continue to February 8th and extend the time for the public hearing to March 31st.
So the time to make a decision. Yeah.
To make a decision, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, board members, anything else before we continue it?
I move that we continue this to the February 8th meeting and extend the time to make a decision till March 31st.
Second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Oop.
I see another hand raised, Dave.
I just saw another hand. So before we continue it, I see an iPhone. I don't see a name. So I did close with the public testimony. Is it something quick? If you want to come off mute before we continue this. iPhone 617-963-4893. Did you raise your hand by accident? I'm not seeing them come off mute.
Oh,
I think that's Rich Dolan, his cell phone number. He's 1315 Albion Street.
Oh, there he is.
He might not
Now,
hear
can
you.
see-
Okay.
617-963-4893.
Yeah, he's still on mute though. He's still on mute,
oh, I
sir.
see him.
He's trying to talk.
You're on mute, sir. Well, you're still on mute. You have to unmute in the mute, unmute in the Zoom meeting room, not just your phone.
You'll probably be good because I'm going to get him all the plans in connection with Brian
Okay.
as well.
And they may have frozen. It doesn't look like the image is moving, so we're gonna have to move on. Apologize, but we'll move on with the continuance. Yeah, just follow up and we can, there's future meetings, so if there's questions or comments, there'll be an opportunity to hear them. Okay. Regular voting members on the motion to continue and extend. Chip,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes,
Joe,
Yeah,
Tom,
Yeah,
and I vote yes. Okay, so thanks for the updates tonight and look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks.
Perfect. Sounds good. Have a
Have a
great
good
night.
night.
Thank you.
All right, our next continued hearing, case number 23-43 through 50, Granite's Family Trust LLC at 314, 330, and 336 Salem Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attorney Brian McGrail representing the applicant on this also, and with me tonight are Jim Cook and Mr. Mandel, Bill Mandel, who are the principals of the entity, and also Andy Zaleski, who's our architect, and John Ogren, our site civil engineer. I think the board, this was just a couple of weeks ago, so the board's very familiar with this. It's at the intersection of Salem Street and Lowell Street where Prime Gas Station is. And we're looking to effectuate a redevelopment of what, for lack of a better term, somewhat of a dilapidated, blighted type site with a mix of multiple mix with a zoning district issue and really a property that's begging for redevelopment. We presented plans at the last meeting and it was made clear to us by the board that you did not like the architectural concept that was being presented, in particular with the building out front. And then there was some discussion of the location of the single family behind the building out front and how that could be coordinated better. And the board had talked about potentially making it look more like a townhouse theme. We can't do, I think I was clear, because of zoning line limitations, we can't do a townhouse project on the whole site. That just doesn't work because the back portion of this property is single resident zoning. So that would not be allowed under our zoning. So really the multifamily aspect of this has to be on the front part of the site where we've located it. But we did have a team meeting and it's only been a couple of weeks. So what we talked about, we did hear the board. And Andy, our architect, came up with a theme that he thought he could develop. So, what I'm going to show you isn't, specifically designed for this site. It's going to take a lot of work for Andy to do that. But before we went to the time and expense, we wanted to see if we were kind of going in the right direction of what the board thought. So, and also as far as resituating that single family house. So I'm probably going to start with the site plan. I think that might be a better place to start because it will allow you to kind of reorient the project and also kind of show you how we dealt with that single family house issue.
Did you send us an updated site plan?
No, I just got it from John, so I'll send it to you if I can. It's pretty simple, Mr. Chair. It's one sheet.
Okay, just making sure because all I got was the one-page
Yeah,
architectural.
because John Ogren's here. He hasn't been feeling well, so he was able to get this to me today. So this is how we've kind of revised this. And if you remember, the single family home was pretty much right here, right in front of the other. So the board has suggested to us, gee, maybe you could reorient this and face it out. So these, it looks more like a little village here compared to one home behind the other. I think John did a pretty good job. He was able to take the house, which was really in this area here, facing the back of the building and reorient it. So it really kind of, utilizes this area of the site, which really wasn't being used. So that's the first aspect of this. And again, this is just conceptual because, as you know, we try to address the comments of the board, but every time we make significant changes, it affects, our drainage scheme and, all of that stuff that's going to have to be recalculated by John and redone. So we just want to make sure before we really dig into this and go in a direction that the board is comfortable with it. So that is that layout. And then what Andy was thinking on the architectural theme, for lack of a better word, is to really give it a real residential feel out on Salem Street. So if you remember before, I can bring it up again if you'd like, but this was, as Mr. McBain phrased, he phrased as just a big box building. It had a lot of balconies out front on each unit, and it really just had kind of like one door coming out. So Andy thought from the Salem Street perspective that he could really develop this to really give it a real townhouse, a nice streetscape feel, and really help with the massing of this building and make it really fit in nice. Andy, are you there?
Yes, I am.
You want to talk about that at all, or?
Yeah, what what I did was I put together, this is the exact same size as the original building, the height, the width, and everything, but what I realized when I looked at some of the townhouse developments that we've done for other clients was that the windows and the doors and the porches and everything actually pretty much aligned with where I needed those elements to be in the apartment building. And that we could give it a look of townhouses, even though it is a apartment building. I think it could have a very nice look. And I mean, I originally presented the other building thinking it was very small and close to the ground. I mean, you can see this is the exact same size, and I think the architectural elements give it a much different scale. I'm hoping that you guys would see that. We still propose to mound up a little bit in the front with a landscape berm and a wall so that the parking garage is totally concealed from the street. You don't see anything. You don't see louvers. You don't see openings. It's really hidden from the street, and it really gives it a much different feel, I believe. I don't really have a lot more comment than that.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a real early phase, right, Andy? I mean, this would have to be developed, but before we spend the time.
Yeah, I took some elements that I had done for other clients and I rearranged them and put this together, but I'm just trying to get a sense of if we can give the building a little different feel with, I mean, we heard a lot of negative comments at the last meeting, and I'm trying to find a rope here where we can start to do something that makes a lot of sense.
Andy, this is Jim McBain. This is much better in the right direction because it breaks the scale of that previous building down, and it gives it more of the texture of the neighborhood with pitched roofs, the different architecture in the frontal pieces of it. I'd like to see how the sides and the rear develop. I also would like to see how we might lower the roof a bit compared with what the buildings are in the surrounding neighborhood. So it looks like it proposes to be, but if we can make it as much as possible, like a series of buildings, basically. So there's some in and out on the front of this, not just the porches, but even the building themselves. So there's a little bit of depth that breaks them up as you're coming down the street. Material certainly does that, but it would be nice to see that there is some difference so that all the faces aren't lined up, just changing in materials, basically, in my mind. I'd like to also get a sense as to what the height of the buildings are in the neighborhood in relationship to the height of the peak that this would be. So we get a sense from that as well. And you've got some fairly large older buildings that are in the area, in this direct area, basically, that might help us give us a gauge to that as well. And we've done this on Water Street, where we've asked in one of the projects there that they get us elevations to the peaks so we could see the neighborhood in elevation, in at least information on elevations of the building, so we can compare as we go along and comment at the same time. But I think this is much, much better. Good place to start.
Yeah, that is representing a pitched roof. It's not some kind of a mansard or something. It really would slope to the back. There are apartments on that third floor, but they all look out the back of the building. So the front of the building can have a gentle pitched roof on it, like I'm showing here.
Well, that's what I said. I'd like to see how
the ability to go in and out, because we are, I need the rectangle of the garage so that the cars can park properly. It can vary a little bit, but it's going to have to be pretty much a straight line. I know what you're saying about the in and out, but we just don't have room on the site to do too much.
But like he's saying, like a foot, Jim, a foot to 2 feet, like just so that there's a little bit of
Yeah.
onto it, not like scaling back 8, 6, 8, 10 feet between them, right?
No. I'm looking more at 2, you know?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
appreciate all of Jim's comments. I'm still in the school that this building is just too big. Like, we're worried about not being able to undulate the front because we got to get all this parking on. Well, the only reason we need all this parking is that we're trying to jam 19 units onto this space. And although this has come a long way, I personally feel that 19 units is still just way too many for this space. I just think this building is too big for the front, and even though this breaks it up nicely, we're trying to do a lot with a little, I think.
This is Greg. I would agree. I appreciate the trying to mask the scale, but I think it actually needs to reduce the scale. And I think part is maybe you didn't do yourself any favors putting those people in there, but I mean, if that's anywhere close to, semi-reality, even if they're, only 5 feet, the houses are already starting above their heads. If it's anywhere close to the same setback as we were talking about before, it just seems like we're saying we can't do anything because we're putting too much in it, in this, trying to pack, 5 pounds of sand into a 2-pound bag here.
Are these, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, Mike Feely, are those like dormers on the back of this that allows that 3rd, 4th floor to happen?
I would anticipate the back of it looking different, but I really was trying to present a street facade that was more in keeping with the neighborhood. The back of the building will look different from the front, certainly, because we've got, entrances into the parking level and everything. It's a different look on the back, but this is what would be visible to the neighbors in the street. I mean, to see the back of the building, you'd have to trespass onto the property, I guess.
No, but just please excuse me, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I see the these look like 9-10 foot floor to ceilings for the 1st and 2nd floor. And then what happens on that 3rd/4th floor?
The 3rd floor, there are units that only have windows out to the back. Those dormers, they're just in a little service space. They're not functioning for the units. The units on the top floor all look out the back of the building. You don't see them from the street at all.
And that's 2 stories of roof area that's looking out?
Not really, no.
Then why does it have to be so big? Because everything else is a 10-foot floor to ceiling or 9 foot, and then that's
I
25
haven't worked it through. I don't know that it has to be quite that big at all. That I can. This was just a sketch to give you a concept.
No, I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
it looks like a 4-story building.
Pitches of the roof and everything. I think it could have a lower ridge on it.
Yeah, this was, to be clear, this was not, this building you're looking at wasn't specifically designed for our site. So, the massing might be able to get smaller. It was just to try to give an idea of what the look would be. Andy took this from other projects that he's done. So I'm glad you pointed that out, Mike, that, it might not, the massing here potentially could be smaller.
I mean, I like anything that's not kind of the cookie cutter we've all seen a bunch of. And I like what Jim's saying about staggering a little bit, 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, I don't know. But the roof looks like it's 25 feet tall. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's parking underneath that you don't see in 3. I think that what they propose is 3 levels of residential units above.
Yes.
Totaling 19 units, so.
And
Again,
actually,
they'd have to develop all sides of any new design, so you'd see more of it beyond what we saw the last meeting, but it was just the trying to sense, are they headed in the right direction architecturally, design? Sounds like yes, but it's still a massing issue. I think it's clear for board members.
I mean, as far as the density goes, I hear Chip, I hear what you're saying. I always respect what you say, but as far as density goes, when you look at the whole site, I presented that at the last meeting. the density that's happening on this site is not drastically higher than what's going on there now. When you factor in all the commercial uses that are happening on the property today in conjunction with the residential. So, you know, our traffic is going to be less. I mean, so, you know, there's, you know, I'll go back to it, but I think there's like 11 residential units. You got 4 commercial properties going on there. You have, you know, curb cuts that don't make any sense. You have, you know, businesses doing display and outside sales and various products at different seasons. And so, you know, this is, you know, where the problem we have is you have with any site is, you know, and I mentioned this, you got the economic aspect of it because, you know, those units are there and they're allowed, they're legal non-conforming. So we'll look at everything, but, you know, it's not like we can make drastic reductions here because, you know, the property will just stay the way it is. It's not going to go forward because the owner won't sell it. He won't reduce the price. And that it's just going to be that because it's more valuable with what's happening on it today than what we're proposing to do, the economic aspect of it.
Brian, to Jim's point, I mean, I like the design. You might want to bring up like the couple houses down the street because if you look on Google Maps, 2 houses down, you kind of have the same kind of feel. You know, the 2 stories with the roof. If you know, 2 houses down, the house right next to it's pretty tall. 2 houses down, it's got the same kind of look. So you might, like to Jim's point, you might want to, you know.
Well, I think we have to. I mean, I think, you know, I think the board made it clear that you want to see that, you would require that, and we would do that. You know, before we went through that exercise, you know, and, you know, I understand what everyone's saying on the massing, the roof height, but is this concept, you know, something that it's worth our while to try to further develop it? Because, you know, that's what my clients are trying to get a feel for from the perspective of, do they continue going forward on this? You know, because it's expensive for them to do that. And to develop those plans, you know, if it's going to be a fruitless effort, then it won't.
Yeah, I mean, I like the design. I drive by this property twice a day, so I live right around the corner.
So going back to your other point though, Brian, I understand what you're saying. There's an economic aspect, but at least for me, I don't want to get into the situation where you're saying, well, anything's better than what's there today. So let's let it go forward. Yes, I like the architectural design, but that still doesn't mean it's the right sizing and massing for the space just because it's better than what's there today.
Yeah, I don't think you can make that determination yet, Greg. I agree, because we haven't developed it.
Well, even at any point, I don't think you can say it's simply what's better than there today. It's better than what's there today. I don't think that's the business we want to be getting into and just saying, oh, no matter what size it is, it's still nice, or whatever, you know, what design it is, what use it is, whatever. It's better, even though it's not right for the site, it's better than what's there today. So we should approve it.
No, I understand. I mean, I know I respect that you have to weigh that. I understand. I mean, I can just tell you that this site has been a problem site for the building department for my whole career. You know, Jack Roberto would always talk about this site, the complaints that he got from neighbors and the operations going there and the mix mash, and he didn't know how to deal with it. And so this is, you know, as I said, these are the opportunities that these sites come before the your board or the planning board, and you know, it presents unique circumstances for everybody to try to make something work. So I understand. I'm not saying, oh, take this has to be it, or, you know, it's not going to be anything else, but we do want to work with the board. I just want to make sure that, you know, I just know. I know if I'm dealing with the owner, I know if I'm dealing with my client, you know, it's not like it's going to turn from, you know, 19 units down to 15. It just can't, it won't work economically. So we have to try to mass it to make that work. We've got plenty of parking here. We have excess parking in the back. I think we had like 6 extra spaces, which nobody has. So if we can make this work, I don't think it's just going to be, it's going to be better than what's there. It's going to be a good thing for the area compared to what's there, or what else could go there. So, you know, that's the other thing you have to look at. If, you know, if this residential project goes away, then what other business or what other type of development could you have on this site? What other options does the owner have if my client and I go away? What else might happen here? So that also has to always be factored in. I mean, you've got really good, responsible developers here at the table that want to work, and we're going to continue to try to do that. I mean, I've gotten a call from a couple of the neighbors, and I think they're here tonight. They're dying for this to happen because they live with what's there every day. You'll probably hear from them through public participation tonight because they reached out to me after the meeting. Live right across the street.
Brian, I just want to go over the numbers that you're presenting as to what's there now versus what you're
Sure.
presenting.
Yep.
So we have 2 single-family homes already on the property, correct?
Yeah, let me get back to
No.
it, Chip. Hold on, just to make
No.
sure I get it right. Hang on a second. I'm gonna
You
have
did
to-
present it last time, and I thought you had it on a plan, or maybe bring up the site plan.
Yeah,
It'll help illustrate.
yeah,
So it's
Just
clear to
give-
everyone, especially other members of the public who may or may not be aware.
yeah.
We were here last time.
So I'm gonna have to just, you're gonna bear with me for 1 second if you could. Because I gotta dig that up.
Yeah, there's only the one single family home in the back. The other 2 buildings are a mishmash.
No, there's a single-family home to the right as well.
That's coming down.
Correct, but it's there now.
Yes,
Oh,
it is.
that house.
Yeah.
Yes,
All
yes,
I'm
No,
saying is I'd like to go over the numbers that
Yeah.
he's presenting
Yeah.
that we keep saying it's about the same.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
don't
fine.
think it's about the same.
No, it's not about the same, but it's not as drastic of an increase in density. So John, could you bring up the site plan if you could, and then I can go through it? John will bring that up. Chip,
Yeah. Right, so we have the nice single family that's in the back.
well, first of all, I get this is a 2-family, start at 314, John. That's a
Okay.
2-family dwelling, Chip, so you got 2 there.
And that's coming down.
That's right, yeah,
Okay,
okay. And in the front building, okay, 330, you've got 2 commercial and 2 residential.
okay. That's another 4 units, 2
Okay.
of which are commercial.
Right.
So we're up to 6.
And then in the back building, you've got 4 residential units.
Yeah, so
And
we're
two
at 10.
commercial, and 2 commercial garages,
Okay, I'll
okay?
even go to 12.
And then in the back, you have the single family home.
Right, so we're at 13.
That's right.
So we got 13 units. And you're talking about going to 21 units.
Correct.
So I
But-
just
but-
want to make sure that, we're not saying it's the same amount of units. And you never
No.
have.
No, I didn't
But
say it was,
I'm not sure that 13 to 21 is all that close to not that much of a increase.
well, but you don't have any commercial component to it anymore, which has been a real issue for the neighborhood.
And I'm not disagreeing with any of that.
And
I'm
that,
really
and that,
just
and the
looking at,
traffic, in the traffic aspect for that, that you'll see through, when we get into the traffic advisory part of this, it's not even close on the impacts, especially on the weekends. I mean, that the businesses that operate there, you have cars and you
Yeah,
have commercial
and
trucks.
I get all that. I
and,
just,
you know,
I
so-
went and sat on this site for a little bit back here where you're proposing to put the single family home over the weekend. And it is a disaster. I totally agree with you on that. But the single family home is a gorgeous home.
Yeah, it's a pretty home.
And by sticking a house in front of it, which you've done better to push it back, still takes a lot away from that house. I mean, it'd be nice if that house was built somewhere else. You've also got nice stonework in front of it. You've got a nice turnaround driveway in front of it. It's kind of strange how it's behind all of this. And I'm concerned that now will look out to the back of this building that you're putting in front as well. And what does that view bring? And although you've pushed the single family house back there a little bit, I just would kind of hoping it would even go further back into that corner. But I think we just need to understand that for me, the 19 unit building out front just still seems too big, too drastic to go all along the front edge of, maybe it needs to come back a little bit, maybe, I don't know. It seems to have a real big frontage look, and I certainly appreciate what you've done, and I like that look a lot better than what came through first, and I know you're still developing it. But those are my thoughts, that there's still that's a big look. And then we're trying to drive beyond that, behind it, to these two houses back in. Maybe there needs to be a real good developed landscape. I don't know, but it seems like we're trying to do a lot on this property.
So Chip, here's what I think, and that's why I asked a question previously, but I didn't articulate all of it in my thinking. The rear of this building is going to be a 4-story wall that these houses you're talking about are going to look at. And that 4th story is in the attic, so to speak, on one side, but you know, a sloped roof on the other side. It's not going to look that great. That's why I want to see how this thing works out on the sides of it. And you know, is that lot area between the two? One of the things to do is just plant the hell out of it with trees. Like, it's, once you get past there, you're in this sort of treed landscape back there that is so dense, basically. So you're just passing by the building. You're not really spending time to look at the back of it. The other thing is, if we take the two ends of this new building and clip it, basically, so we slope the roof basically all the way around, so it's sort of a mansard of sorts or something, basically, so that maybe you lose some units on the upper level, but you basically at the same time step back into the neighborhood at a lower elevation on the outer edges. So I think that's where, to some degree, we should look to see what we can do with this, along with you know, some horizontal articulation, basically, with this thing. It's got a lot of work. The concept, at least the appearance of the concept on the front, hints to what we might be able to do on the rest. But until Andy basically has spent some time on it, we're not gonna have a good. We got a lot of problems we have to work out, I guess, is what I want to say.
Brian, I have a question just to sort of understand the whole procedural context too. If you do go ahead with moving that lot line back sort of to the corner there, I guess, do you have to go back to the planning board?
Yeah.
Just to understand the whole context, I assumed, but
Yes.
yeah, so, okay.
Yes,
I knew
correct.
there was some sort of weird note you put on the plan with them. I didn't know if that was to
Yeah.
cover this type of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's gonna, we're John, to do this, where John moved that house, we're gonna have to adjust a lot line that will have to go back to the planning board, but I don't see.
Not that that changes a ton of, just to sort of understand everything. Okay.
Yeah, and that, I don't think that'll be problematic.
Okay.
And just to be clear again, showing this site plan, that front building has to fit between the street and that red dash line, because that's the zoning
That's
boundary,
right.
right?
Yeah. And
So
and
whatever
that lot-
jogs or turn the building or anything, it has to fit in that space to
Yeah,
exist.
it's tough geometrically. And then, you know, the other part too is that lot where that building is gonna sit on, it meets the density requirement. So, you know, it's not, and that's not 1 per 750. So, because we're not in the, what I call the railroad district, where, you know, this is outside. So it's 1 unit per 1,200 square feet. So we meet the bylaw as far as the number of units that we're trying to put on that size lot. Whether special permit, whether you think that's appropriate or not, that's your call. But from the technical aspect, we meet that requirement.
So maybe it's just, continue to work on the architectural, continue that design around the building, roof lines, edges, maybe it steps down. I mean, something to, again, break down the massing. I think for board members, again, I don't know. We hear what you're saying. Just let's see the next version of it. Headed in the right direction. but next
In
version
fairness
of
to
it.
the board, I mean, I think I heard tonight that, you don't know the massing because you don't know what's around it. So, so we can do that to kind of show some heights, because you don't have an understanding at that point. I think Mr. Pride said that, that he thinks there's some things that it might actually help us when we look at the massing.
Brian, can I ask a quick question? The people in the house in the rear, they're obviously aware of all this, and they're.
Well, that's our property, Joe. So my client's buying everything.
All right, so then it's on
So-
him to sell it and all
That's
that.
right.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
So-
So it's not like, this is, basically my client's gonna buy this whole thing and then they
Yeah.
will either keep that house for themselves or they're gonna sell it. So whoever buys that house knows that, what's
Yeah,
happening. here.
exactly.
But,
So if it's a
but
bad
quite
house-
honestly, we have a very respected broker who we're working with, and his comment is with what we're proposing, the value of that house is gonna be better compared to what it's looking at today.
So it's not like someone's just gonna wake up one day and have a huge building in front of the house. It's
No,
gonna-
but right
yeah.
now, what they're looking at today.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
what they're dealing with out front, and they have people driving back there all the time that shouldn't be back there because they go to buy a product and take their truck back there to turn around. So, it's gonna actually be, a better setup.
I bet he gets a good deal on Christmas trees though.
Yeah.
But the people who are there today are probably not gonna be there if this goes forward.
No, the current owner of the property who's selling to my client lives in that house today.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that just helps understand context there too, okay.
But we own the
Alright.
whole property, so we're in essence redeveloping the whole site.
Got it.
The comment on landscaping makes a lot of sense to me. How that could, I think Chip said that, how that could really improve the site with a lot of landscaping that could go in.
So yeah, certainly queue that up once we kind of get past this front building here.
Brian, is there anything more we can do to push the proposed single family back farther into that corner?
John is here. John?
We not,
Or is it because of your
I'm sorry.
drainage,
I'm
of
sorry.
what you're trying to do drainage wise?
Yeah, one is we have a drainage swale going through here, and I was trying to keep the rear setback of 25 to this property line, and we still need to keep this 5-foot wide strip for this back lot. So, unless we got some relief also. For this
We've
rear.
already applied, we've applied for the relief, John, because we've applied. for
I
So-
would give you relief. Well, first of all, I'd include, that's an imaginary 5-foot line, so to me, you've got 5 more feet that you can do. It just still seems to me, and then and I know you're just developing it, there also seems to be a lot of hot top in front of the single family home.
Right,
you
well,
know.
we did that anticipating that the fire department would wanna be able to pull the fire engine in and make a turnaround and exit out.
Okay, well, then maybe we do that with concrete grassed pavers or something, that doesn't look like 2 runways down there. They're just,
We can actually,
you know-
we can talk to the fire chief too, John, because we should talk to him, because he might not have that concern. So we should talk to him a little bit.
he might just want to pull down.
Mhm.
But to get it back a little bit farther and maybe even square it up a little bit so that it's more into the corner, to me, would go a long way. And if we eliminated some of the pavement or incorporate, I think to me, a lot of it will help too. There's pillars, what are you doing with the pillars? Are they staying? Is the half turnaround staying? There's a lot of stuff happening in front of that existing single family, but I think that whole area needs a little bit of work, but I think we can get there with this. And then I think we can make this, like Brian, I think said earlier, if we are driving by the building and then you're coming back to this nice 2 little single family home subdivision, and we put a ton of blue spruces in and it becomes a forest into that lot 12A lot line, so that you don't see and maybe we mound it, right? So that you put pine trees on top of a 4 or 5 foot berm so that these cars in the parking lots go away. Right, and we have a couple pillars with some nice light. I think there's a lot you can do to kind of separate the front from the back
Mhm.
Can we,
as you progress.
can we get, because I know there's a bunch of houses around this perimeter, MG Realty, for instance, there's a house buried back in there and a bunch of trees. I'd like to see the locations of the houses around the edge of this property to get a sense as to how close this is to everything else. I mean, pushing that house back might be logical in what we're looking at. On the other hand, we don't have any idea where the abutting house is that's there now. So I'd like to see where these other houses actually are on the site in relationship to the edge of this project.
There are some pretty close.
Yeah. So, you know, we can't just move them around without context. And so we need context.
And put them in somebody's backyard as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, you want to give that guy somewhat of a backyard too, no?
Well, he's got a huge front yard.
Yeah, but
Asphalted.
But yeah, you're right. But this is a lot better than it was. And again, I think we're going in the right direction on the front. I like Jim's idea of maybe clipping the ends and getting down a couple units or doing something to loosen it up a little bit there. See what they can do.
I agree. I just want to avoid the precedent, and it's kind of, we got two projects over, one at Broadway, this one, where we have distressed sites that need to be transformed. They have a lot of site constraints. And it seems to be that what we're being presented is the only way to transform those sites is to maximize units on there. And I think that's a bad precedent. And I don't want to see us put in that position. I think Greg laid it out pretty well, but that's kind of where my head is too.
Every time I bring that argument, someone says it's not precedent. And I laugh.
No,
argue with that, we did-
if I can just say, I very much respect that, Tom. I do. I'm before this board all the time, as you know, and I really respect that. And our goal is to, everyone, every owner, everybody wants to maximize. I understand that. Our goal, we're hoping that we can do this in a tasteful manner that works for everybody. That's going to be our goal. And we, and the board is pretty skilled at doing that. So, I think if we get your help and input, I think that potentially could be accomplished here.
I think we've said all that needs to be said tonight. Board members. Sounds like there's some definitely some homework to do and some follow-ups. Again, Brian, don't you have queued up with TAC as well?
Yeah, and I also want to mention, Mr. Chair, some of the neighbors are here that talked about the drainage. We haven't forgotten that, so, but until we figure out what's going on with the site, what's going to be where, I think there's some opportunities here to really improve drainage for everybody in the area. So, but that's gonna, we before we can finalize our drainage aspects of this, we need to kind of figure out what we're gonna do with the layouts.
Yep.
And as Chip said, if we can get rid of some of that pavement that we'll talk to the fire department about, that's gonna help a lot with drainage in the area too. So that's a work in progress as well.
So with the talk about drainage and what's going on in the back of the site and around the site and with abutting properties, there is no conservation area. You're don't have to go to the Concom for this.
No, John, can you confirm that?
Yeah, no, we don't need to go to conservation.
Okay, it's not, I don't know that we've received a letter. I'd have to double check the file saying it's not in their jurisdiction because they get a copy of every application. But I did have a conversation with Rebecca Davis, the conservation agent, and she definitely seems to have a pretty good feel of what's going on the site and those abutting properties and how things sort of flow. Surface wise, underground, there's a pipe under there, I guess. I don't know. She seems to know a lot about, and even if this doesn't have to go to Concom, I would anticipate that she may have some suggestions, perhaps in writing, about some things we that the applicant team might consider. So I'll leave it at that. I don't want to speak for her. It just sounded like she knew things pretty well or understood a lot that was going on here, and may be able to offer some some thoughts, that's all.
Anything we can reasonably do to help, we will. So
Yep.
we're happy for any input.
Yeah, I see no letter stating not correspondent. I believe you. I just, normally we get a letter saying it's not in our correspondent, not in our jurisdiction, but nothing in the record that I see yet.
Well-
But anyway, just we'll bullet point that one for future. Okay.
There
Anything
has,
else?
there has been comments from a rear abutter basically as to flooding that happens at the next street over. Because
No,
of
we know,
certain,
we, the last time. I'm just saying from a conservation, from the town, sort of as another voice, someone that deals with this stuff, right? But okay. Anything else, board members, for tonight? All right, we'll open up for public testimony. If anyone has a comment or question about the new information we've received tonight, please raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. I see Jane Daddario. Please come off mute, ma'am. Yep, just state your name and address for the record, please.
I am Jane Daddario. I'm at 1 Hope Terrace, and I'm directly across from this property, and I support this project. Mainly because I see the impact from the front of the building of all the traffic and just the visuals, which would be improved. And I'm just glad that the owner of the property has decided to clean it up. But I really think that the traffic will be improved there because it's a very, very chaotic and possibly dangerous intersection. And moving that entrance to the property down to with 314 Salem Street will be much, much better than having all those curb cuts that are in front of 330 right now.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no other hands, we'll close out the public testimony for the evening. So 2 weeks, Brian?
Yeah, that would be great. I think you need to deal with the time factor on this also, Mr. Chair, just like the last one, because this is through 2/23. So I would suggest 3/31 on the time extension here as well.
Okay.
If it's acceptable to you, Mr. Chair.
That sounds good. I always like to stay ahead of that. Appreciate the reminder. Yep. So
So I move that we continue this to February 8th meeting and that we continue the time for a decision till March 31st.
Second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Regular voting members, Chip,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tim,
yes,
Tom,
Yes,
and I vote yes, and that's unanimous. Okay, thanks for the updates tonight. Look forward to continuing the discussion in 2 weeks. Have a good night. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, that's it for continued hearings. On to our new hearing, 23-53, Brian Prue and Lauren Stern at 28 Lafayette Street.
Great. For the record, Mr. Chair, Attorney Brian McGreal here on behalf of the Stearns at 28 Lafayette Street. This is a 190/50 finding request on the Stearns property at 28 Lafayette Street. With me tonight are Lauren Stern and Brian Prue, who are the owners of the property. They are here, and also John Ogren. And Lauren and Brian, can you hear me? If you can come off.
Yep, we can hear you. Sorry.
Great, thank you. And I don't think I don't think our architect is here, right?
No, he's not.
That's fine. I didn't think he was. I just didn't want to miss him in case he was. So we don't need him. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't omitting him. So in any event, I think this is a pretty straightforward finding request. The Prues bought the property at 28 Lafayette Street. And it's a beautiful home. We'll show you pictures momentarily. They have an addition on the back, and I'm gonna bring up, I guess, the right way to start this. John, do you want to bring up the site plan? I can do it if you don't have it handy. You want me to do it?
I got it.
Okay, thank you. So this shows the house on Lafayette Street. And you'll see the architectural renderings in a minute, but just to give you an idea, site plan wise, what's happening. John, can you blow it up a little bit? So currently, there's a good sized box colonial with an addition that was constructed on the back that Brian and Lauren are having some structural issues with. The addition is failing. It was built years ago. It wasn't good construction. John, could you show the outline of that existing addition in the back? Thank you. You can kind of see it within the proposed addition. So what our plan is to raise that addition, that's the existing addition, and then reconstruct a new addition. The existing addition is 1 story. The new addition will be 2 stories. The setback is not changing. So from a finding perspective, John, could you go to the table if you wouldn't mind? And blow that up. So this property is in the general residence zoning district, and just to go through this table on, why we don't need any variance here. The lot area in the general residence zoning district requirement is 8,000 square feet. This is 13,000 and change. It exceeds it. Lot frontage is 80. This is a legal non-conforming at 77.97. So that is one of our existing non-conformities. Lot width is 80 feet. It's currently 71.77. Because of the geometry of the lot and the addition, it's going to go down to 71.7. So it's going to get a little bit worse. So that would require us to have the finding on the second prong, not the first prong, that it's not substantially more detrimental. The front yard is 15 feet is required. It's 11. It's staying the same, legal non-conforming. The side yard, same thing, 10 where the addition is. It's going to remain at 5.1. And then the rear has excessive setback compliance, 20 feet. It's currently 113. It's going to go down to like 112 and change. Stories aren't changing, meet the requirement. Height is not changing, meets the requirement. Building coverage gets a little bit more coverage, but again, easily meets the requirement of 35%. And minimum open area is excessive at 72% when only 30% is required. So that gives you an idea of what we're trying to do on the ground and as far as where we stand with the zoning table. John, if you could give me the control, please.
Brian, how does the lot width change?
Just because the lot gets skinnier as it goes back, Joe, and our new addition is going to go back just a little bit further.
And they fill in you also fill in a corner.
Yeah.
Which is probably how it happens.
Yeah. So this is the existing home. As you can see, again, a beautiful home. And in this area here, you're going to see this is going to get filled in as we go. But I think the architect really did a nice job here. Really explaining what's happening. So this is just the existing basement. The current addition on the back doesn't have a basement. That's kind of the problem with it. And it's actually falling out from under them. So it's kind of, it needs to be done. There's like no option not to do this for them. So this is the proposed basement. As you can see, now they're going to put a full basement where the addition is. This is the existing first floor. And the proposed first floor, and Chip, you're right, they extended out a little bit, fill that gap. There is no second floor on this addition. And Brian and Lauren are proposing a second floor for their master bedroom. So this is really helpful. So this is the existing front elevation, as I kind of showed you in the picture. And this is the proposed, where it gets filled in here as part of that addition in the back. This is the existing elevation on the west side. So this is if you're coming up from the lake on Lafayette Street, if you're walking down the wrong way from church, not from Church Street, not from Common Street. So that's the existing, as you can see, it's the 1-story. And they're tying in the 2-story. And this is the existing east elevation. And you can kind of just see the comparison, how they tie that in. I mean, I think the architect's done a really nice job fitting this in.
Brian, is all that decking and stuff already there?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And this is the existing rear. And that's the proposed rear. So it gives you a little bit of a model, existing. And then the proposed. I'll go back. So there's a decking chip. It's getting modified a little bit, but it's already there. And that's it. So I think when you look at the zoning table and the standards, I think it's, there's a good argument and position that this is certainly not substantially more detrimental than what's there now. I mean, the only nonconformity that's being increased is the lot width, which is by fractions. Happy to answer any questions.
Brian, what's the square footage when this is all said and done? Of the house? Yeah. And what was it? What is it?
Yeah, I don't, Lauren or Brian, do you know that offhand? Maybe you don't.
Yeah, off the top of our head, I don't. I want to say it's like 27 now or 31 now, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not increasing too much because we're basically adding a story over the existing addition and then filling in that weird gap space when they pour an actual foundation.
Okay.
And Brian, why don't you tell the board, if you could, what's going on right now with that addition that's going to come off?
Yeah, so one of the main things that the home inspector and everyone found when we were getting everything investigated is that there's no actual basement underneath that part of the property. At the time, it was air quotes not that big a deal, but over the past year and a half, it is noticeably started to sink a little bit. So we had somebody kind of crawl out underneath and go investigate more thoroughly. And the addition is currently being held up by a tree stump and 2 cinder blocks, which is one of the things that we have a very interesting photo. But that's one of the things we're trying to remedy and get repaired. We had initially planned on kind of renovating the attic and turning that space into a bedroom. But then we had the bright idea that if we're going to have to pour a foundation under the addition anyways, we might as well just put the bedroom on top of that instead of trying to renovate an attic.
Okay, seems reasonable to me. Prove a bad situation. Barely increasing the existing nonconformity. Made a good case, Brian. Works for me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm
Board
good.
members?
Too. I'm good too.
Have we talked to any of the neighbors?
I really,
Yeah, we've
I
spoken
did
to-
get notice. I, maybe Brian and Lauren did. I really didn't see a need with the finding and the fact that we're not going any closer.
I'm only curious about the second story windows, Brian, and what they start looking into.
Yeah, that house, I actually asked Chip, the house, that house is kind of set forward. I might be able to show you that. Hold on.
But maybe if the applicants, I mean, are your neighbors?
Yeah, maybe you
aware of
did.
what
Brian,
you're
did you
planning
talk to, did you talk to the neighbors at all, Brian? Or
Yeah,
Lauren?
we talked to our right side neighbors, Bill and Pat, and then we talked to the ones across the street diagonally, who I believe are related to our immediate next door neighbors. So we've talked casually as we've been shoveling out from the recent storm, and then just general neighborly conversations. So they should be aware. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and they would have gotten a postcard, but just, we always recommend and certainly encourage any projects like this, whether they're asking for a variance or a finding. Make sure you talk to your neighbors, so they're not surprised the day the cranes show up or,
Yeah,
something.
this might help too. Just see, this is the house that it really sits right up on Lafayette. So this house is more, in the addition, this addition, the way it's really interesting because, when you
And
look
we're
at
far
this,
enough, that's far enough away from the lot. And
yeah,
Yeah.
see Chip, and then
There's
you
good,
look-
okay, there's good separation there and there's trees and.
I found another view in this, yeah, the windows aren't even close to any of the houses.
Yeah, so that's my only concern when you start putting a second floor on, what are you starting to look into?
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll open up the public. Anyone else has a comment or question about this project, please raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. Not too many others left. Seeing no hands, we'll close it to public testimony. So back to the board, we need the two prongs for the increase in the nonconformity and the fact that it's not substantially more detrimental.
I just didn't catch, and I didn't pull my plans out.
A lot
Who the
width, right,
plans
Brian?
Who the
increase in lot
plans,
width.
yes,
but who the plans are done by and the date on them.
hold on, Chip, I'll help you with that.
At Hayes, December 21st? Or AJA?
December 21, yep.
Well, there's architecturals and there's site, right?
Yeah, that's a site plan, and then the architectural plan is, that is done by, AJA Engineering. And that is dated, hang on. What's the date?
I'm gonna do as presented to us this evening.
Yeah. It actually has a 0000, it has no date. Oh, wait a minute, no, issued December 2022. No specific date.
Okay. So I move that we find that based on the site plan presented to us this evening by Hayes Engineering, as well as the architectural plans presented to us this evening, that the existing nonconformity is only increased in one area and minimally. So that given that we do not find that increase is more detrimental to the neighborhood, and that we find that we should allow the addition to be built.
I second that.
Any discussion on the motion? All right, regular voting members, Chip,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes,
and I vote yes. All right, it's unanimous. You have your finding.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Have a good night. All right, board members, we covered the other matters. Any clerical board comments or other topics for tonight?
We need to approve the minutes, don't we?
We do. I'm just going in order. That's next.
Yeah, that.
Oh, if you had put the agenda up on the screen, I would have realized that.
You've been here longer than me. You should know the order.
You say I'm old.
And when you're chair, next.
Yeah, that will never happen. Trust me.
I'll be the Jim for tonight and actually have other comments. Has anyone driven through Quannapowitt Parkway recently and seen the condition? I mean, there's toilets have been dumped there. There's cement blocks that have been dumped there. Is there any way we can get someone from the owner, or ask them at least, to go out and at least take like the broken toilets people have dumped from their homes and cement blocks that are all through it, to do something? I mean, I know they're not going to cut the lawn, whatever, it's the middle of the winter, stuff like that, but it's getting to be an absolute disgrace in there.
Hey, look, their attorney's still here.
Yep, I can do that, Greg.
He is still here. I thought you were
I'm
kidding.
here. Yeah, I'm happy to,
Oh, he's still here?
if I may, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to convey that message.
Appreciate that. And I was actually gonna mention that we had a meeting yesterday. And Brian, you can fill in if I misstate, but one of the conditions of 200Q was a prior to issuing a building permit, that they produce a construction management plan, which they did draft. There was a meeting yesterday at Town Hall with all the various department heads, police chief, engineer, DPW, building inspector, myself, the applicant, Rebecca from conservation, Aaron Kokinda. So I think covered the gamut of all the different departments and relevant to what's going on here. They presented the plan, went through it. It was good to see it. There were some comments and feedback, so they're going to make some updates to the plan and send it to us. And then the building inspector will be looking for us to basically issue our typical letter that they've met this condition once we've had an opportunity to review it and discuss it and vote on it. So sounds like, Brian, it sounded like that's something that they were feeling they could turn around rather quickly, right? And we'll get
Yes.
it
Yeah, it
routed.
was a great meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. While we have Brian.
One second. Is this related to 200Q? Because I want.
No, it's not.
All right, so let's finish 200Q because there's a couple other things.
Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
But then I'll give you the floor, Mickey. So, Brian, anticipate maybe coming back at a future meeting for potentially some minor mods and another condition, maybe adjusting the terms of another condition about the O&M itself.
Correct.
When the team produces that.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
Condition set prior to building permit, and maybe we consider doing it later. Again, it seems early to come up with a full O&M, but we definitely needed the construction one, and we.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Well,
And I
on
think
the
it was a great meeting yesterday. I mean, I think the town department heads were very, very impressed with the construction management program that they presented to all of them. I mean, just an incredible plan, security cameras during construction. The chief of police was ecstatic with that.
Brian, do they know who's gonna build it?
Yeah, it's I think is it Callahan, Chip? Does that make sense?
Callahan could be.
Callahan.
It's Callahan, Chip. Yeah.
They're a good builder.
Yeah, and Benny said the same thing. He said top notch, and just everybody, they hit spot on all the fire department concerns. I mean, so they're off to a good start. They're planning on, I think, starting demo in March. So
right, they have to do abatement, asbestos, and all that for a couple months, then demo. So things are going to get going there, and by March, April, we're going to start to see activity over there.
Yeah, they're gonna fence the whole construction site, not just a temporary fence for, so pedestrians can't get in and kids, and so
but still allow.
You'll see the
emergency
plan,
access.
but it's a real thorough construction management plan.
And one that we might want to carry forward in other projects. Even, it's probably not even too late for 596 North. I think we may have a condition for it, but just, we can use this as a template. We can
As
certainly.
an example.
Yes.
Parking
won't be able
areas
to
for the
step around.
construction, designated parking areas for the construction workers and, delivery areas, just really, really good.
So no, you'll see it as soon as we get the updated copy. I'll route it around. Brian will send it to us and we'll get it routed around, and something we will need to vote on and, issue a letter on. Okay, so that's 200Q. Mickey, did you have something?
Oh, I have to go. I'm sorry.
No, I get it. This board does an amazing job of hitting every single point that you would never even think of. And it's a done deal at this point, but if you ever see the people who did Grayson Lofts, a quick fix I'd love to see somebody power wash the outside of that parking garage that faces North Ave, because it's gross. And that's just for their own benefit, because it doesn't bode well for that building. Just saying. So if you ever see him,
I talk to them all the time.
give him a wink or something, or just say, guys, it's messy. But that's all I
Got
have
it.
to say.
I'll pass that along.
Anything else, members? For
I
today?
have a question, since it's only 9/11. I love the fact that we did other matters first last week when we had a big agenda. Can we continue to do that? Because then we actually think about them, or at least I can speak to myself. I actually think about them. And I'm not just trying to get out of the meeting at 11 o'clock at night. But I thought it went great doing the other matters first. Plus, I think, those poor guys that sit here for their cell towers, or for a paint color change, or for a window modification, right? We make them wait sometimes 3 and 4 hours. I would love to do other matters first. Can we do that did anybody else feel a real difference in that meeting, having done that first?
Yeah.
It felt like we checked a few boxes perhaps quickly and made progress so that maybe the end of the meeting, it wasn't like, all right, now we got to do these bunch of things. So
Right,
I'm fine with it. It's always, I think, the chair's purview if, or, for logistical.
where you put it on the agenda?
Yeah, yeah. They're all announced as taking place at 7 PM, but clearly we don't take them all at 7 PM. So the order in which we take them, I think there's discretion there and I'm happy to continue to do it. Unless there's something that we think is gonna take certain discussion, we would want to defer, but I mean, we can certainly see a case by case basis, but I'm fine with that. Anything else on other matters tonight? All right, minutes of January 11th.
I move that we approve the minutes of January 11th as they were updated.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All voting members, Chip,
Yes,
Joe,
Yeah.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yep,
Greg,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
and I vote yes. And we missed you, Gail. I know you'll be watching this video later. We missed you tonight. And we'll see you soon. All right.
I want to thank you guys for all your kind thoughts and words about my brother. So thank you.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you, Mickey.
Go back.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's where Gail is again tonight. So, okay. So
I move that we adjourn.
Sure. Second.
thank you. Any discussion?
Third.
I wouldn't think so. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night. This meeting is adjourned at 9:14 PM. Thank you all for your time tonight. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.